Welcome back to the JM Report. I'm your host, GoodOlJM, coming to you from the CSB Studios in Tampa, Florida, the birthplace of pro wrestling, and this is episode 16. Quite a weekend. Well, not this one because I'm a day late on my JM Report, but I'm referring to last weekend as apparently more questions were asked rather than the ones answered prior to last weekend. And regarding Brock Lesnar, well, there were the reports early in the year, actually just a few months ago, about him possibly returning, that he had the urge again to go back to UFC, that he's been in talks with Dana White and trying to work arrangements with WWE and Vince McMahon while still being the current Universal Champion on Raw. So as it stands right now, at least as of last night, a matter of fact, I was still gathering notes, so I took the extra time to make sure there weren't any more follow-ups or any updates on the matter. So here we go. Some questions were answered, but now there are more to ask. In UFC 226, last Saturday night ended with a bigger bang than anyone expected. After making UFC history, Daniel Cormier knocked out Stipe Miocic in the first round to become the new champ. As he walked in, he was the light heavyweight champion of UFC, and he defeated Miocic to become the new world heavyweight champion via knockout at the end, just before the end of the first round. He had maybe about, 15 seconds left, and the referee called for the bell. And shortly after his post-match interview, or matter of fact, right in the middle of it, Daniel Cormier called out Brock Lesnar after beating Miocic, and Lesnar, who happened to show up right before the main event began at 226. And he was seen cage side, sitting with Dana White and other officials of UFC. So once Cormier called in Lesnar, it started cutting almost like a pro wrestling promo, if you will. But for some reason, as Cormier is a legit amateur wrestler, but still calls pro wrestling the F word, but it's unfortunate. So he's calling out Lesnar, saying that, you may big things like big and bad, you're strong and this and that. You may shove me around now, but you'll be going to sleep by the time we meet up. And that's just paraphrasing. Although many feel that this whole confrontation, if you will, was staged, and I can understand that. You see Cormier and Lesnar both smiling throughout the whole thing, and at the end, Lesnar got a little more serious about it. But either way, this thing's going to make money. This fight, this event, more than likely after January 2019, is going to make money for a lot of people, and it's just going to make those rich people even richer, or like the phrase goes, even stupid rich. But I would have never been there. But again, it definitely opened up a few more, doors to find out what the hell's going on with Brock Lesnar. And there was one report that no one was allowed to even make any reference about Lesnar and his appearance at UFC 226 this past week on Raw and SmackDown, which honestly was expected. I mean, I did. I even said before the Raw show started that I bet you anything that they're not even going to mention Lesnar, because that's a whole separate thing that he's doing, even though he's still under contract with them and still has one of their championships hostage. But either way, according to Dave Meltzer, he went on the Wrestling Observer Radio and says Brock Lesnar does indeed need. Let me try that again. Brock Lesnar does indeed have a preference for who he could like to fight. This is Meltzer's words. Once he returns to the UFC, Lesnar was offered the winner of Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic for the championship, but the fight Lesnar wants is Jon Jones. Yeah, that Jon Jones fight more than likely will not happen anytime soon. I mean, and I think I made mention of this last week, where Jon Jones is currently serving his own suspension, and this might be his second strike. Not that UFC has, at least I don't think they do, a 3-strike policy rule, but there's only so many times you can screw up and lie to the people saying that you're clean, that you're in the best shape of your life, you've never been any healthier, and this and that, only for Sada to come in and say, nah, you're still using, you're still doping, you're not going to fight and make probably millions of dollars on the fight you may or may not win, but either way, you're trying to cheat. So, not happening. Lesnar requested to fight Jones, as I mentioned, may be proven difficult and may or may not happen. Chances are it's not going to happen, but as Jones is currently out of the UFC after a second steroid violation. Following Lesnar's appearance at the weekend's UFC 226, USADA issued the following statement to MMAfighting.com, confirming that he has been re-entered into the drug testing pool. USADA says, after receiving notice of his intent to compete in the UFC, USADA re-entered Brock Lesnar to the testing pool on July 3rd, with 6 months and 4 days remaining on his period of ineligibility. Easy for me to say. Lesnar will be able to compete on or after January 8th of 2019, should he remain in compliance with the UFC anti-doping policy, end quote. So the original deadline for him to re-enter was back on June 29th, at least as many reporters were stating. So this took place a week after that. So don't know if there was any kind of extension or a request for one. But either way, Lesnar did re-enter, although secretly, because it was later revealed that, and I'll see if I had that in my notes too, about USADA removing it or not including the fact that Lesnar re-entered in their database. If you go to these websites or their personal website where so-and-so is entered or still currently serving a testing pool period. But my thing is, why? I mean, that must have been some hell of a negotiations or business transactions or some kind of meeting between all parties. And it wouldn't surprise me if WWE was involved. And my question even there would be, why are you guys involved? I mean, one has nothing to do with the other than the fact that one individual has separate contracts to two different companies. And if you ask Vince, no, we're completely different. But someone like Jim Cornette will say otherwise. The UFC is pro wrestling and WWE is sports entertainment. So there you go. And but I mean, it was explained to me by a good friend of mine out in San Diego, who is a huge MMA analyst, and she tried to explain it to me that she wasn't even surprised, and I personally don't get it. There's nothing to gain out of it other than more frustration, because more people are even after this surprise appearance, more people are still talking about the WWE status and what's going on with the Universal title. Will he or will he not appear at SummerSlam or whenever the deal is? So we're still waiting on that. But I move on here. Even the WWE made a release statement the very next day after 226, and I got to tell you, it's such a far fetch from a cop out. It's not even funny, and honestly, they're making it look like as if they had no idea. But I'll read it. You be the own judge if you haven't seen it or read it for yourself. So this is WWE statement. We don't know who the next challenger for Brock Lesnar's Universal Championship will be, but we do know his upcoming opponent, UFC heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier, as cameras caught Lesnar cage side for the main event of UFC 226 between UFC heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic and challenger Daniel Cormier. After Cormier knocked out Miocic out in the first round to become both the UFC light heavyweight champion and the UFC heavyweight champion, he called out Lesnar and invited him into the cage. Brock immediately shoved the new champion across the cage before delivering a profound tirade on the microphone. Later in the night, during the post-show conference, UFC President Dana White confirmed that Lesnar versus Cormier would be happening in the future. He added that no date has been set. Speculation has run rampant over Lesnar's future for much of this year, starting with Lesnar's posing for photos with Dana White on the night of WWE Elimination Chamber 2018. Lesnar last competed in UFC in July 2016. Weeks ago, Lesnar's advocate Paul Heyman revealed that the Beast's next Universal title defense was facing contractual issues due to lack of confidence in WWE to find a suitable challenger. The last appearance Lesnar made on WWE television was at the Greatest Royal Rumble on April 27th, where he retained the Universal title against Roman Reigns. End quote. So in other words, there's a lot of secrecy going on. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and only I can only guess a handful of people will know. Obviously, Brock Lesnar will know what's happening. Vince McMahon, Dana White, Paul Heyman, Triple H, and maybe a couple of other people may know exactly what to expect in the next few months. Matter of fact, up until the end of SummerSlam, maybe even the end of August. And I've always said, and I know I've said it here more than once, that let's see what happens. Let's just wait and see. I mentioned last week, if all of this was a work, at least before UFC 226, if it was a work or a shoot of, for one, Lesnar not competing at SummerSlam and defending the title. Two, the WWE not even stripping Lesnar of the title because of his ongoing negotiations with UFC. And if and when Lesnar does show up first before he returns to WWE for the Daniel Cormier fight, then what are you going to do with him then? I mean, you can't keep him as champion. I mean, we're long past the whole, I guess, for the sake of having it, record-breaking, longest reigning champion and this and that, blah, blah, blah. To me, that's just an excuse just to, well, for one, break a record for modern day ages and not brag about the previous person. And the previous person was CM Punk. Yeah, different title, but, you ask them, they can care less. Lesnar could have the title for up to 500 days, which will probably be about 2 months or so longer than CM Punk. But they won't point out the fact that it was a different title. Hell, I mean, they treated so many championships throughout the years ever since the quote-unquote invasion in Survivor Series 2001. All the former WCW titles just been treated like, let's face it, been treated like shit. And it's unfortunate. But that's a different story for a different day. But as of right now, still no word about the whereabouts of the Universal title. Maybe after Extreme Rules, the light will shine brighter on the topic. But I mentioned about having a little extra time to get more information about this, and I looked into it a little bit last night before I came here to the CSP studios. And now they're speculating. I'm sorry, wrong choice of words. Now there is a bigger possibility that Brock Lesnar will be at SummerSlam. So if that's the case, they were probably waiting to get all this UFC stuff out of the way first. Will it work out? Will Lesnar re-enter the USADA testing pool? So it's from that point of view, at least from Brock Lesnar's point of view, I guess you can deal with it or look at it at a personal standpoint or making it personal. Let me just get this out the way first, and then we'll negotiate something with myself and SummerSlam. And another bit of information I came across saying that Brock Lesnar has only one contractual match left with the WWE, and that may just be SummerSlam, where it's expected for him to drop the title. But we've been there before earlier in the year at WrestleMania, where we all thought Roman Reigns was going to walk away with the title. He did not, because Lesnar's contract was about to expire, but apparently he signed an extension. And now here we are again. So let's just see what happens. And either way, it poses for a lot of interesting television. I know a lot of people get wrapped up in this thing and want to be the first one to report this. And that's fine. I get it. Because it is exciting at the same time, very frustrating, because even though there is some closure, if you will, or things to figure out at the end with, in this case, Lesnar and WWE and UFC, then, great. But it's at the same time, like I said, it's really frustrating. So they may never give us a straight answer unless, of course, Conrad and Bruce Pritchard get on another season of something else to wrestle with on the network, and they talk about this in length because they get all the details. They talk to the proper people, those involved behind the scenes, or the ones that are willing to talk and say, no, this is what really happened. And even then, it's, naysay. And it becomes a he said, she said stuff. So I just look at it and take it with a grain of salt, for one. And two, well, if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to believe, that's what they want to tell us, well, who am I or anyone else to say otherwise? To call them a hypocrite or a liar, even though a lot of the situation that it was dealt with between this, WWE has been hypocritical. But at the end of the day, the person in focus, the main person in the center of all this is Brock Lesnar. He's going to make so much damn money out of all this. He's going to end up having the last laugh. And then how would you feel? Like me, I'll feel fine because I don't look at it that way as far as like, oh, he's holding the belt hostage. He should do this and that. Vince McMahon should just strip him and blah, blah, blah. But, I'm trying not to sound like a hypocrite myself, but, it's something like this has never been done before, having two separate companies basically trying to win over the one person's, I guess, value, Brock Lesnar, who is an attraction apparently, and that's how Dana White sees him, that's how Vince McMahon sees him, and attractions cost money. And there's that word again, money. So should we really take it that personal? Should we really take it that serious? I mean, if all of this leads up to Lesnar leaving WWE for a couple of years for good, or making on occasion one-off appearances during a year, if the argument starts with why is Lesnar still the champion if he hasn't defended it in who knows how long, and throw out basically head-scratching comments like Heyman, well, WWE can't find suitable opponents, which is bullshit, between AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, and even those were one-off. To me, that was just like, well, you're contracted to appear this day at this time, this place. We'll set up something, and I guess we'll see you in the next 2-3 months. Honestly, I thought they could have made Samoa Joe the champion up until post-WrestleMania, have Lesnar come back and compete for it and be champion now, leading to all this UFC stuff. But apparently this has been going on for many months now, and the Universal title's all been but forgotten. And that really sucks. So we'll just wait and see. And again, folks, I'm going to sound like a broken record every time I say that. We'll just have to wait and see. I know it's edge of your seat, nail biting, what's going to happen next kind of thing, but just have to wait and see. Everybody takes things one day at a time. It's just like Lesnar. We're all human, and he's going to make so much money. Well, let's move on here. The injury bug is going to hang around WWE for a while, as it looks like, as one Fandango went under successful surgery to repair a tear in his left. Okay, how you pronounce this? It's a piece of cartilage near your rotator cuff. Labrum, I think is how you pronounce it. It is the cartilage that lines and reinforces the ball and socket joint of the shoulder. There you go. You learned something from JM today. No return date set yet, as Tyler Breeze is going at solo for now, even though he hasn't had any matches on Raw, or no, I take that back. No matches on Raw, but he's had a couple of live event matches. Goldust has gone on under successful double knee surgeries in one day back on July 10th, and is already at home recovering. So those who are wondering where Goldust is, well, double knee surgery in one day. That is a man. Ric Flair has undergone a successful surgery as well to reverse a procedure that was done that possibly related to his health issues earlier in the year and leading all the way back to last fall. This surgical operation in which a piece of the third portion of the small intestine is diverted to an artificial opening in the abdominal wall. Now, that's as far as I've gotten research. But apparently this procedure that he had many years ago was reversed, and the doctors felt that was a cause of the health issues he's had for the past year or so. Now, I can kind of see this and understand it a little bit. as this reminded me of my grandfather, may he rest in peace. See, back in the day when surgeries were done, like, and I mean surgeries where they basically cut you open, and it's not like today where it might be a 1 or 2 inch incision, but we're talking like the ending credits of Saw movies, or Freddy versus Jason type of thing, where they split you in half just to go in there and fix whatever the issues are. And I can't remember the exact procedure, but my grandfather had an abdominal surgical procedure done to him many, many years ago, and left him with a gnarly scar on his stomach. I'll say about just beneath his rib cage, his sternum area, all the way down past his belly button. And of course, the years went by, and as he got older, the scar tissue internally somehow became infected. And scar tissues, they become, in many cases, become very stiff, very hard, and it was messing around with some of his internal organs. So we didn't know that until after the fact, where X-rays and CT scans were done. So the original scar had to be reopened and remove all that internal scar tissue. And at the end, he felt better. So as far as Ric Flair goes, this might have been a similar situation to reverse a previous procedure. Thankfully, it was reversible. Otherwise, certain procedures, once you cut, you can't cut back, But thankfully, Fandango, Goldust, and Ric Flair are all doing well and at home recovering. Well, at least Fandango and Goldust are. Flair had to stay at the hospital for a few more days, I believe, and eventually will be home. As Charlotte Reed herself, I may mention about a couple of weeks ago, herself also recovering from surgery herself from repairing a ruptured implant, and is expected to be back by SummerSlam. While promoting the movie Skyscraper, The Rock was once again asked about running for president in 2020. This comes from a Variety reporter. The Rock laughs for a moment, but then all of a sudden, a unknown woman walks up and says, "Thank you, I got to grab him." First of all, we don't know who it was, and didn't say exactly what she needed to grab on him, but but The Rock answered, and it's funny because The Rock, during the same red carpet event for Skyscraper in New York, there were also WWE cameras, and you can see the same woman, the short hair blonde lady, next to him in the background from the WWE's camera's point of view. But anyway, the Rock answered, "I don't see that happening in 2020. So he's been asked before. He's given the same answer, if not very similar, about not running for president or just not doing it at all. And, well, it's kind of like one of those things, be careful what you say, because someone might take it seriously. And for someone like The Rock, who is very intelligent, and if he focuses on a project long enough, he will understand even more than when he first got into it. I mean, it'll be cool. I mean, just for the sake of, look at it this way. If you're a WWE fan for years, like I have been, and to see someone charismatic and basically headstrong, for a pro wrestler to be in the White House, that's beyond bragging rights. That's like, okay, how can you not take pro wrestling seriously? Sure, got guys like Jesse Ventura made it as governor, and he's been wound up in conspiracy theories, and hell, he even had a TV show with the same name. And he's been ridiculed over the whole American Sniper situation. Unfortunately, he passed away, but his family sued him. But the countersuit was that the guy lied about knocking out Jesse Ventura at a bar because he wouldn't say hi to him, or some nonsense like that. It's I guess in short, pro wrestling and politics don't really mix. Although Linda McMahon is still serving as the administration or the administrator of small businesses, which is great. I mean, losing 2 times in back-to-back Congress elections in Connecticut, so what's the next step, right? So The Rock him saying not running for president 2020, not seeing it anytime soon or at all. Again, we've heard this before, and sometimes we've been swerved. We'll see. Either way, I'm not affected by this personally. Either way, where he does it or he doesn't. And if he does, by that time, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of cleaning up to do. A lot of undoing, if you will, of the current administration that many people feel that should not be in place, or should not be in power. Certain rules or laws that were passed, and just a lot of cleaning up to do. And 2020 is not that far off, and we shall see. I talked about this last week, and it's quite a story in regards to Taylor Hendricks accusing Jay Lethal of him derailing her ROH push, during her Ring of Honor days. After she refused to sleep with him, the Ring of Honor World Champion took to Twitter to deny all allegations from the former valet. Hendricks would reply, of course, that's what you do, with a screenshot of Jay texting her on a Thursday, maybe July 5th, and Jay was asking her to talk. Didn't say for what or why, but Hendricks tweeted out that the text was sent before a live event when Jay pulled her aside and had a conversation. Jay is confident that the unfortunate accusations will be proven to be completely unfounded at the end of Ring of Honor's investigation. Now, usually these text messages have a little more detail, like the time of the day and the date. But if you go to, it should still be up there, Taylor Hendricks' Twitter page, the screenshot. Again, it said Thursday, and at least mine does. It will show a date if it's older than a couple of weeks. But here, she explains that it was at a live event where they were still hanging out together or working together. So that might be a little bit confusing there or misleading. But again, all of this is being under investigation by Ring of Honor, and of course, Hendricks has been lawyered up already. It really sucks. There's no place in this world for anyone, whether you're male or female, to think you can do something like this and get away with it and not expect the person, the victim, to speak up eventually. Then you're wrong, and hopefully you'll suffer the consequences. Allegedly, if Jay Lethal is guilty of any of these wrongdoing, because, I mean, if there's any hope for him to move up higher than Ring of Honor, whether it's Japan, Mexico, or even WWE, maybe NXT, you don't need this on your record, so to speak. You don't need this to come back to you and bite you later, as a similar situation, or a matter of fact, many situations that were very similar in the past 20, 30 years took place. And depending on your point of view, it was taken care of. There's a situation of Superfly Jimmy Snuka, the situation with Enzo Amore. Point being, they were all taken care of swiftly and, I guess, settled. But there's nothing settling about these accusations from Taylor Hendricks to Jay Lethal. It's just, it's not something you want to hear about, especially in the world of pro wrestling. I mean, it should be fun, it should be entertaining, should be everyone that is involving everyone that's part of it to reach out and talk to the fans. And I couldn't imagine how uncomfortable this would be in conversation to bring up now if, say, anyone runs into a Walmart store and, there's Jay Lethal. Yeah, if that were to happen, or even Taylor Hendricks, if that were to happen, everyone, let's be professional and don't bring this up. Post for your picture, get your autograph on a bag of Oreos or whatever, and move on. Let them deal with it, I should say, and hopefully all this will go away soon. This was interesting. The WWE was unsuccessful for their bid for an Emmy nomination, which is interesting because they went all out. They had a huge red carpet event. I don't know if anyone see those pictures or the videos, and they were trying to present for your consideration, if you will, for the Emmy officials. If you Emmy, do they have a proper name for their office or the title, the academy, I guess, or I guess we're the group of people who are in charge who would consider an Emmy nomination for a TV show or a movie or a documentary or what have you. But point being, WWE was on the ballot for a consideration, but did not make it for a nomination ballot. None of these shows that they presented, from 24/7 Empowered, The Evolution of Women, I believe even Andre the Giant's HBO documentary was up there, which had some influence and participation from WWE, and a couple of other documentaries that they made that's available on their network did not make the final cut. On the other hand, congratulations go out to the cast of Netflix Glow, as they were nominated for 9 Emmy Awards. Despite a big push that included hosting for Your Consideration Party last month in Los Angeles and being listed on the primarily ballots for the first time ever, WWE failed to land any official nominations for 2018 and the Emmy Awards. Although the company failed to garner any nominations, it's important to note that in 2018, for the first time, WWE was ever able to get to to have any of their programming, that is, even to the primarily ballot. And this has never happened before. And I guess if you keep trying, they consider themselves a TV show first and sports entertainment after. Anything but pro wrestling, anything but an actual sport, right? Because this is not the 1980s, or this is not Vince Sr. running a pro wrestling show or a company. It's TV shows for ratings, sponsorships, and TV deals. And in many ways, they've gotten deals. How the $1 billion deal, which was more than NASCAR one day, who got, I think, like an $800 million TV deal for Fox. And here we are with $1 billion. That's sports money. That's TV rights, TV dealing for a sport. But still won't accept the fact that that's what you guys really are. Fox or UFC Network did not negotiate with a sports entertainment company. They dealt with a sports company. In this case, the sport being pro wrestling. But I digress, because I'm going to get into that whole tirade again. So maybe next time they'll try, this time next year, to appeal the Emmy audience or the Emmy officials to get at least maybe one nomination. And we will not hear the end of that, people. Let me tell you right now. We're still yet to find out or be told exactly what award-winning WWE Network, what award exactly did they win? You ever notice that? Not from a specific network or a company or studio or anything like that. What award-winning did you receive that you're bragging about on a network that's still $10 a month? But definitely never hear the end of them being nominated for one little category for whatever it is, a movie, a documentary, what have you. Every week that's going to be shoved down our throats like everything else is right now. From Michael Cole to Saxton, Graves, the other guy. Can't think of his name right now. But we'll never hear the end of it. And if they win, even worse. And it doesn't matter even if they lose. They say, well, we were nominated that one time. And by this, and when we reach 2035, the year 2035, remember that time we were nominated? Yeah, so, we're a big deal. I guess, in all fairness, when you see a trailer and you get to see the cast and you read the subtitles, Emmy-nominated character or whatever the name is, and it's a big deal. It is. It really is a big deal. But that's something you got to work hard and strive for it for a very long time. To me, WWE is only recently be doing this because they have their own network. Okay, fine, because they're making these multi-million, billion-dollar TV deals. Okay, great. I don't see the NBA or the NHL, who do work on many TV projects themselves and documentaries. They don't knock on the Oscar Academy or Emmy offices or whatever you want to call it. You don't see them knocking on the door. Hey, We're holding a for your consideration party. Do you think you want to come down and take a look? We'll make it worth your while. And then to be disappointed when it's all over. You know, who knows? And I hope it works out, but I'm just not looking forward to the constant references to it when it happens and the aftermath. I'm just not looking forward to it. And by the time it happens, I'm sure they'll all be on Fox with SmackDown and 3 hours with USA with Raw. Let's move on, shall we? I mentioned that Lesnar not being mentioned on Raw. It was Vince McMahon's order, not a call, not a suggestion. It was ordered by Vince McMahon. So, a direct order, I should say, at a production meeting before Raw. And according to Meltzer, McMahon wanted to have the sole focus on Extreme Rules and the Extreme Rules only. As McMahon told employees during the production meeting, the Beast can be brought up again when he's being offered to our audience, and we can capitalize on that. Meltzer also noted that Vince was adamant at portraying Lesnar as a champion that has abandoned the fans, which may in turn get Roman Reigns cheered if the two were to happen to face one another at SummerSlam. Here we go again. Only problem with that is Lesnar currently isn't advertised. However, according to Meltzer, Lesnar is on the Barclays Center's advertising for Raw after SummerSlam, despite not being pictured for that Raw on the venue's website or advertising at all on WWE's website. So there's another clue, if you will. You're not advertised for SummerSlam, but you're advertised for the Raw the very next night at the very same arena. That whole 4-day weekend has NXT, SummerSlam, Raw, and then SmackDown from Saturday on. And I don't know, are they trying to avoid spoilers? Remember when they had spoilers for WrestleMania banners? The one time where we knew Sting was in the company, but we didn't know who he was going to face at WrestleMania. And then I think it was either in Vegas or New York that they posted these huge advertising pictures of individual wrestlers. And Sting was on the official banner, the one with the group of picture with Triple H and Taker and Bray Wyatt. Hell, even at that time it was speculated whether or not Undertaker would return and who his opponent would be. So, like but many movie trailers do nowadays, I think they've learned their lesson where you don't need to tease or spoil anything during advertisement. And as the day of the event gets closer, if it hasn't leaked online already, then the speculation will be answered or blown out of the sky by the time you watch the movie, or in this case, watch SummerSlam. And I'm pretty sure there'll be an announcement made a couple of weeks before, if not this Monday night after Extreme Rules, to see exactly what's going to happen with Brock Lesnar and the Universal title. Because if Vince McMahon's focus is only Extreme Rules, well, that's tomorrow night. But this time next week, I'll have the review of it. I'm not going to have any predictions this week because, unfortunately, the studio time will not allow it. But definitely have the review next week. And hopefully this Monday night on Raw, something is mentioned. Or somewhere, somehow, Lesnar's name will be brought up, as at that point, Extreme Rules will no longer be the focus. And speaking of, and I'll end with these couple of stories here. Former UFC bantamweight champion Dominic Cruz was on a Scott and BR show in San Diego and believes that Brock Lesnar is entering beast mode. He made a quote, and he explains what he was trying to say. If he makes it to the fight, I'd be shocked. I'll try that again. I will be shocked. Once again, Dominic Cruz quoting from the Scott and BR show. And I just mean that because USADA is the toughest anti-doping system there is on the planet Earth. And that guy is absolutely doping. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if he's not been in mixed martial arts, so of course he's been doing that stuff. How they're going to let him how are they going to get him get clean on the fight night is beyond me. So we know, and it's been proven by USADA, that Lesnar has been on something before, hence the suspension, hence the no contest after UFC 200 versus Mark Hunt. And could we see another John Jones in the making? I mean, we'll see. These testing periods last about 6 months, as once again it was explained to me by my friend out in San Diego from LoloLoveFilms.com. And 6 months, and how she explained it to me was, they could literally test you randomly at any time, at any point, no matter where you are or what you're doing. You can be at home. You could be just coming out of the movies. You can be attending a friend's birthday party. Just imagine any kind of scenario. Either they call you up to find out where you are, or they know where you are and just show up anyway, and they'll just get a blood sample and take it with them. And they'll do this before at random times, as many times. They'll do it on and definitely after, immediately after the day of the fight. So Lesnar needs to be on his P's and Q's, because he had to give back all that money that he won after UFC 200. So if the pay-per-view buys and the advertising and merchandising and all that combined under, what number would that be? UFC 30, maybe? No, I'm sorry. Maybe somewhere between UFC 31, UFC 30, UFC 231 or 235, where Lesnar would head back into the octagon to face Daniel Cormier. I'm not good at math, but if it's after January, there'll be more or less around those numbers on pay-per-views. But if his mentality is to make a lot of money off of this one fight, win or lose, then again, he needs to be on his P's and Q's. Cross the T's, dot the I's. No more nonsense, no more shenanigans. You were even huge before you started using whatever it was back in 2002. And even then there was speculations. Well, did he? Didn't he? Well, he was never suspended. He was never, as far as we know, never been in violations of the wellness policy in WWE. And years later, when he became a part-timer, they came up with this cop-out answer or response not to test part-timers. And Lesnar is less than a part-timer. He's probably a 1/16th timer because he never shows up to work. Gets paid for it anyway to wrestle grizzly bears and go duck hunting. But if there's any truth to what Dominic Cruz says, then you know what? Pat him on the back and let him know, you know what? You probably saw something or know something that we don't know now, and all this will come out much later, way beyond the fight of Daniel Cormier. But if I have to speculate or give my 2 cents in right now, I'll say between the day or the day of the fight, Lesnar will probably get popped, meaning he's going to get caught with something. I mean, he was huge at the Greatest Royal Rumble, at the actual Royal Rumble, and there were some signs of physical differences. I think he might have lost weight or shrunk. I mean, let's face it. Let's be honest. Let's be adults about this. You know, once you're off the stuff, you do shrink a little bit, but maintain some kind of very strong looking physique. And between the 2 Rumble events this year, go back, there is a difference. But either way, Lesnar does have enough time to flush out any and all substances in his body to pass the USADA test as of July 9th, as it was reported. So good luck, Lesnar. And if you make it all the way to the fight itself with Daniel Cormier and become, once again, the UFC World Heavyweight Champion, more power to you, and don't spend all that money in one place. Finally, the Pro Wrestling Sheet is reporting that the WWE is looking to produce an all-women's event that will feature the main roster talent this fall. So this was on the table before, and it was rumored as well, among other possibilities of Tour Japan on the network, which they did, but it was never broadcast on the network. not too long ago. They got the All-Star Down Under event, or whatever they call it, in October. And, of course, recently I just mentioned the Greatest Royal Rumble from Saudi Arabia. So they have all these great ideas, and it's just a matter of how and when to pull them off. And if you're getting $1 billion from Fox pretty soon, if you haven't already, money is not an issue. So I'm all for a all-women's event from start to finish. Who knows what they'll call it? Who knows when it will be, and if they'll broadcast it on a network, which I think they'll do. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Otherwise, what's the point of having a network at all? Even before that launched, people were thinking, well, one of the ideas would be they would broadcast all of their live events, but it would be not so much of a good idea for this one reason. And say you attend Raw or SmackDown live, you watch it in the arena, and then you go home and you watch the DVR version, and then that Thursday or Friday night you're attending a live event, whether it's headlined by Raw or SmackDown, and there's a very huge chance that it's going to be a copy and paste show. Sometimes they'll mix it up with a 6-person tag team or mixed tag team match or a battle royal, just to make things interesting and a little bit different. But chances are the main events are going to be the same. The opening match, the mid card, a lot of the matches are going to be a copy and paste situation. And in rare cases where someone gets injured, they got to obviously reorganize everything and everyone. But to have live events broadcasting on the network itself, I don't think it'll be that big of a deal, that much of a good idea. They've done it. I mean, for that, what was it? The return of Lesnar to the Garden that one time. And that was only the one exception because they knew that they were going to do that one show. So a lot of matches that were featured on Raw and SmackDown that week were repeated, but I think half of them had different endings or didn't take place at all because it was a co-branded SmackDown and Raw. They were still doing that before the big draft early in the year. So all I'm saying is possible, and they have a network at their disposal to do whatever they want with it. I'm just upset they haven't done more WrestleMania rewinds, especially now since they've crossed over these imaginary lines when it comes to speaking to a talent that used to be on a WrestleMania event that jumped ship to Impact, for example. You can't get their point of view because they're talking to a competitor's, or not talking to, but they're working with a competitor's company. That's no longer the case, especially if you've seen the Hardy Boys documentary, Woken, a couple of weeks ago when it debuted. If you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Second of all, it's a great show. It's a great documentary. It really is an eye-opener in the lives of Matt and Jeff Hardy. And kudos to Rebby Sky, who really opened up about her husband, Matt, in a good way. And really spoke about a lot of taboo stuff about the CM Punk situation at the diner, that Jeff Hardy was in an alternate stage, if you will, but that's I guess a more professional term to use when you're trying to tell someone that's drunk, and just went on a tirade. And for whatever reason, it was posted on social media. Don't do that, people. Don't be in an awkward situation that you know you're intoxicated and you're just gonna speak a lot of gibberish. Try to have some sense or brain cells left in the head, and tell your friend not to record yourself, and 2, not to post it. It's kind of difficult to tell third parties to do that because they have that right to. But if it's coming from the main source, you have no excuse. There's no way to defend what you said and did in said video. But anyway, the documentary of Woken is great. Again, there's no excuse now because they used a lot of old TNA footage. They even tapped into the whole Sting versus Jeff Hardy situation where Jeff was apparently nowhere to be seen throughout the night. What was it, the Bound for Glory pay-per-view back in, 2011, I think it was? But where Eric Bischoff had to come out and explain to both Sting and Hardy that this is going to be literally a quick match. Just let them pin you and we'll go home. And they found a way to cut off the commentary audio and crank up the microphones on the cameras so you can listen into Bischoff to hear what exactly was said. And yeah, Jeff spoke about it. They had Sting come in, or at least someone visited, the camera crew visited Sting wherever he was at the time, give his side of the story, his point of view. Point being, when it comes to these WrestleMania rewind shows, there is no excuse now not to speak to someone that was involved in the WrestleMania main event in whatever year that happens to be working now with Impact or Ring of Honor, to not have them bring into the studio and speak about that one match. I think we haven't seen a WrestleMania rewind in a couple of years now, so I think it's time to ante up. And there are other couple of shows. I'm trying to get into the whole Camp WWE. I heard it's pretty funny. I've seen a couple episodes of a Ride Along, but I guess it depends who's involved with the episode. I don't really watch it. I think the Hardy Boys have done one, but I haven't seen that one yet. I'm curious to know if they have the Enzo Amore and Big Cass episode up there still. And Finn Balor with the was it Finn Balor or was it AJ that was with the Good Brothers? But either way, that episode I haven't seen yet, so I'm kind of backed up myself. And speaking of Ring of Honor, I should have mentioned this earlier. I don't know how it crossed my mind, but it was announced earlier in the week that I guess cooler heads prevailed. No details about it as far as how it happened or came to be, but on the night before of WrestleMania 2019 at Madison Square Garden, Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling will co-produce a G1 Supercard. That's right. They've already released a teaser trailer, if you will, 30 seconds on social media. And at this point, we don't know exactly who will be involved, but the original idea was just to have Ring of Honor. And of course, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, someone in WWE that was not Vince McMahon basically called up MSG and say, no, we can't have this. You cannot have an outside wrestling promotion that's not WWE run a show inside the Garden. They can use the theater, but they can't use the Garden itself. And I mentioned then that how bad this made MSG look. Again, no details were released as far as how this happened. And at this point, do you really want to know? Maybe afterwards, but right now, there's just so much excitement. And I'm pretty sure after the huge success of All In with Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks, that we're just about a month away now, a month and a half, leading to 2019 and all these random events that may or may not have to be related to Ring of Honor and or New Japan Pro Wrestling. We're getting something a little bit bigger than that. Again, two separate pro wrestling promotions from different sides of the world are coming together. And it's going to be, and Supercards usually implies where talent versus talent, in other words, Ring of Honor versus New Japan Pro Wrestling. And that's how I'm looking at it right now. There may be some mixing and matching of talent where, of course, heels versus faces, as one team of the faces is a mix of ROH and New Japan talent versus the heel side of it. So this is a huge announcement. And I know of many people in New York, especially a lot of the wrestling fans, are just doing cartwheels and backflips, which is physically impossible for a lot of them. But they're just so excited. I was personally overwhelmed by it. Didn't see this coming. And it should be a great show. I mean, we're outside, not outside, but we're under a year from this happening in April that's coming. And what more can a pro wrestling fan ask for? Personally, if it's all possible, try to get a couple of Lucha Underground talent in there. I know they've gone back and forth and haven't, some of them anyway, haven't really settled anywhere. But I know it's possible if it doesn't cause any scheduling conflicts, then I say go for it. So make it a trio promotion. Hell, I had an idea about one day, if again cooler heads prevail or egos are checked at the door, where you can have a NXT versus Lucha Underground one night only type of thing, and see how that works out, and maybe have a second one the following year at a different venue. But this is a huge announcement. They could have done something like this at the Hammerstein Ballroom the Mahan Center, the Civic Center. Why hasn't anyone gone to the Javits Center yet? I mean, that place is so big. It could be set up for like a mini arena. I mean, I've been there for Comic-Cons, and the place is tall enough. I understand there are beams and pillars throughout this, this huge room, but I think it's possible. But that's just me with my pipe dreams. Just let me wish. And but point being, but they went after the bigger fish in the pond, that being Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. And I think once this happens, I read it somewhere, just can't remember the exact number. I think it was something like 85, 88 years worth of WWE. And come April 2019, Ring of Honor and New Japan is going to break that streak. And I say it's about time. About time someone other than WWE breaks a record. And then they're not going to get to brag about it. Whap, whap. So that's it for me. I wanted to get into previews of tomorrow night's Extreme Rules, but let's face it, that's not really the focus, is it? That's not going to be the focus until after this Monday night on Raw, when we move forward to SummerSlam, because that's the real focus. As all eyes on SummerSlam, is Lesnar going to show up this Monday night? Is he going to announce, or in this case, Payman's going to announce for him? Or what's going to come of the Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley situation, their angle? Because if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, it was announced going to be a multi-man match. Wasn't announced exactly what kind of multi-man match it would be, but that the winner was going to face Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam for the title, and then all of that, literally 1 week into another, was scratched. So now we just got Now we just got Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley, or just Bob, in a one-on-one match. They could still pull it off as the winner faces Lesnar at SummerSlam, and because it wasn't announced doesn't mean they still won't do it. So if the idea is still Lesnar and Reigns for SummerSlam, then I guess I'll make one prediction here that Roman Reigns will win the match between himself and Lashley. I know a lot of fans are hoping that we still get the Lesnar-Lashley match, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, especially if Bobby is going to see Lesnar leave WWE anytime soon, especially in the next few months for his UFC return. So, unfortunate. So I guess in some ways, Lesnar versus Lashley is, I guess, the alternate angle or a match that we could have seen in Sting versus The Undertaker. I know there's a lot of a lot of differences there, but once we realized we were not going to get Sting and Taker, you notice how all that talk faded away. And early in the year when Lashley returned, almost immediately the talks were, oh, great, maybe we'll still get Lashley versus Lesnar. Probably not. Honestly, I would have loved to see it myself, even if it was a one-off, like Joe and like AJ Styles, but definitely would have loved to have seen that. But I want to tell everyone to enjoy the rest of their weekend. We have Extreme Rules tomorrow night on the network and pay-per-views, and I will return next week with their review and fallouts and results of all the matches. Also, any news upcoming this week. And again, everyone, enjoy your weekend. Give shout-outs to everyone if they're celebrating a birthday or an anniversary. Hope you enjoy and have a good time. Please be careful with the upcoming harsh weather that's coming out there. I know the West Coast is really seeing a lot of these dry heat fires. Everyone be safe out there. And above all, everyone stay cool. Check on the elderly. Check on your pets, your neighbors. Make sure everyone's okay and stay hydrated. So until next time, be good, be safe. I'm GoodOlJM, and I'll see you next week.